Go. So we are finally here. We're starting to plan for the conference, and we look forward to meeting all of you and discussing this conference with all of you. We have individuals like Joe Seltzer who have been here forever, since near the start of the conference, and then we have many of you where you're just contemplating whether this will be your first time in the organization. So one individual that was not able to join us tonight was our president, Michael Stratton. He is the Dean of the College of Business at Georgia College in Milledgeville, Georgia. And we do have a recorded video from him. So I do want to play that for you this time. It's just a couple minutes, and then we'll start rolling into kind of more of the meat of what to expect with this conference, and how our conference and the submission process differs a little bit from many other conferences you might have been to. So if you give me just one moment here, I will cue up this video. And here we go.
Good evening. I'm Michael Stratton, president of MOBTS. Welcome to our roundtable discussion about what to expect at our upcoming face-to-face conference in June 2022 at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm sure Brandon, Chantel, and Kathy will provide you with a plethora of helpful information as you prepare your session proposals and as you consider the look and feel of our first in-person conference since 2019. We're in very good hands with the Cal Poly Pomona conference team. Of course, you all know, or soon will get to know, Brandon, our executive director and wizard on all things MOBTS. Kathy is a seasoned MOBTS veteran, having been the site chair at a very memorable conference at the University of La Verne in 2015. And we are, of course, so thankful to have Chantel and the Cal Poly Pomona folks on site who have been steadfast in their commitment to host in 2022. The faculty, staff, and leadership at Cal Poly Pomona have surely taught us much about being resilient. While we originally scheduled to host there in 2021, they stayed with us in planning and strategizing as we wanted to bring our conference back face to face, and we are very thankful for them. I'll leave you all with this evening. MOBTS is home to so many of us who love teaching and the teacher-scholar model. While we pivoted during COVID to transition to a virtual environment, which actually contributed greatly to our growth and reach of MOBTS, we're beyond excited to welcome our longtime friends and the many new faces to fully experience all that MOBTS has to offer in June. Our conference at Cal Poly Pomona will be the start to our 50th anniversary celebration, culminating with our June conference in 2023. So expect a year of celebrations and reflections on management education and the scholarship of teaching and learning. For now, I'll hand it off to Brandon, Chantel, and Kathy. Enjoy, and I'll see you in June.
Okay, well, thank you. And hopefully you will be able to join us and you'll be able to meet Michael. This will be Michael's final year as president. Kevin Lowe will be incoming. He's currently president-elect. He will be the incoming president at the conclusion of this conference. And we really do hope to send Michael off with a face-to-face conference, because his first two under his presidency have both been virtual conferences. So at this time, I'm going to hand it off to Kathy, and then following Kathy will be Chantal before I close things up and we open up a question and answer session. But Kathy's going to take you through the program and what to expect in developing the submissions for this conference. Kathy?
Thank you, Brandon. So we've had some more who have joined us, and we welcome you. We have a combination of probably one of the most experienced presenters in Joe Seltzer, to people who have never even attended the conference, to those who have attended and not presented, or perhaps presented a few times. So we hope we can answer questions for all of you, no matter which of you are, which category you find yourself in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up what this whole system looks like. To begin with, our theme this year is diversity, equity, and inclusivity. We actually had to update the name of it because that language has changed since we first put it out or talked about it a couple of years ago. Now, the first thing you should know is that we're not real sticklers on people meeting the theme. I know there are other conferences you go to that it has to absolutely match the theme. We love it when it does, but it's not an absolute. And then we have this process. So here's the nuts and bolts of the process. So, this is on the website, so I recommend you take a look so that you've got the right number of words and keywords and those kinds of things. probably the main thing you need to know is that there are several tracks that you can come up with a proposal for. The biggest thing you need to know is that we want things to be engaging and interactive. This is a teaching conference. And so to have someone be the sage on the stage to teach us how to teach doesn't go over very well. So if you want to have a proposal that's accepted and you want to have a successful presentation, it's going to be interactive and it's going to have a takeaway that is key to helping us all to be better teachers, better educators in our disciplines. You'll find some guidelines here as well that gives you things like how many page numbers and, PDF or Word. I'm not going to go into all of that because you can read it on the website, but I want to spend a little more time at looking at the formats. So you can see there are 4 available formats. Probably our most common proposal, and Brandon can jump in at any time, is an activity or an exercise. Now, notice this line, because you're really going to find it under almost all of the sections. Remember, reviewers are looking for participant engagement in these sessions. So that's one of the key aspects to be sure that you're going to have a successful proposal. Now, you might also notice that there's 30, 60, or 90 minutes. So you'll want to think through what would be the best amount of time for what you're proposing. And you may or may not know this, but many exercises that are presented at MOBTS go on to be published in journals such as Management Teaching Review. So this is an excellent chance for you to use an exercise that you may have been using in a classroom, get some good feedback from really solid teachers, and then go ahead and write it up to get into the Management Teaching Review. I know I personally have done that, and I know there are others on this call who have done that as well. So that would be the exercise one. Now, I should mention while I'm talking about that if, we've been doing this virtual stuff for a while and not everyone wanted to present during that time. So you may have had an exercise that you've been doing a while, you went ahead in between and it got published or it's been submitted somewhere. Not a problem, but you need to tell us what you're going to do different at the live conference than what we could just learn from reading it in the journal. So make a little bit of differentiation for that. Roundtable discussions, it's got that same line, looking for participants. Notice this is a 60-minute. Often these are in the evening hours, so think about that and how your energy or jet lag might be, or those kinds of factors for you. And of course, we want a purpose and a focus, and similar kinds of information would be included in the proposal. There's a symposium or a panel, and these are usually 60 or 90 minutes. And again, you're going to have a panel discussion of some kind, bring some experts together. Again, we're looking for interaction and engagement. Then we have the professional development workshop, which I know we're all familiar with at a variety of conferences. This one's a little tighter at 60 or 90 minutes. And again, we want some key takeaways and engagement in the process. And then lastly, we have the case study. And I'll just let you read the details for that. I think that's the smallest number of proposals we get, Brandon, correct?
Case studies, yes, absolutely. That actually, case studies are something we only introduced in the last 2 years. We haven't introduced them at a face-to-face conference yet. This will be the first time. That was something that we have accepted a bit more on the international conference side of things, because our international conference session types aren't exactly aligned with the USA-based session types, and case studies have made that leap over.
Thank you for that. So go to the website, take a look at the submission process so you know all those kinds of details. Make sure it's interactive, make sure there's takeaways, make sure you tell us exactly what you're going to do in the session and how you're going to debrief the session. So that we know that all of this will be included in any session that someone attends to maximize the learning and the interaction. Are we going to hold questions till the end, or should I take questions now, Brandon?
If there are questions now, anybody can feel free to ask.
All right, let me stop sharing.
Now, I do want to make some, for those that are new to our organization and our conference, I do want to say where we differ from a lot of other organizations, a lot of other conferences, is that we don't group sessions together in any way. Every session is its wholly own session. It has its own spot on the conference program. So you have undivided attention to everybody that's in that room. Whether it's a 30-minute, a 60-minute, 90-minute session, there's nobody else with you. We don't stack papers, we don't stack sessions. And you would be within your concurrent session block, you would be with other 30-minute or 60-minute or 90-minute sessions. So we don't stagger and we don't stack. Everybody's got their own spot in the conference program at all times. So it enables basically more focus, more individualized focus on each session. As far as the program itself goes, it differs from year to year, but we try to keep sessions usually about 9 sessions concurrently at each programming slot. Anybody have any questions about session types?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I've been to some sessions where it wasn't interactive and I walk away thinking, well, that was interesting, but it really isn't the way we do things, and it's not the kind of takeaways we're looking for. Mm-hmm. So think about how whatever you're thinking of could be turned into an interactive something, and you'll be heading the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, engagement is key. Do please keep in mind that if you submit a session, even though we're not submitting research papers or anything along those lines, it is still a double anonymous review, double blind review. So, strip the paper of everything that would be identifiable. And likewise, the reviewers do not know one another. They do not know you. So we proceed with this as if it was a publication. You do have the option when you submit a file to us to be a part of our proceedings. If your paper is accepted into the conference, it has the opportunity to be in our proceedings. Our proceedings do carry an ISBN number with them if that's of any value to you. And when you are submitting into the proceedings, or you select the proceedings, you can either just share your abstract only with the group in our index essentially, or you can allow for your entire file to be accessible.
Just a comment. Kathy, you might want to say something about if people have questions before they submit, who should they talk to besides you?
I was going to say they can talk to me. Brandon's not a bad person. If Joe's willing, he's a great person. If you've been to conferences and you notice there were people who'd been to a lot of conferences, you might want to contact one of them. But I'm willing to be the key person if you have questions. Thank you for that, Joe.
Yeah, and what I'm actually going to do in the chat box here is I'm going to post a link to our proceedings page where you can actually go through some of the files and you can see what was accepted into this conference and use those as a template if you would like. So I'll post those in just a second as I bring them up.
That's a great idea, Brandon. That'll give people an idea. There are also some old, previous, I shouldn't say old, but previous, you can see the schedule of what was being presented with mini abstracts, so you can get some ideas from there as well.
Okay, so with that, let's move on to Chantal. You can give us an idea of what to expect when we get to Cal Poly, and maybe tap into the concept, maybe just the beginning of the concept of our 50th celebration year.
Sounds great. Absolutely. For those of you who have been before, you know that we jokingly refer to MOBTS as Summer Camp for Professors. And so that comes with a couple of different main tenets. The first one is we don't take ourselves too seriously. So when you show up to Cal Poly, it's going to be Southern California hot, which means like perfect weather. Wear your shorts, right? Wear your flip-flops. We do not expect you to wear heels and dress shoes for the conference, which is great because that'll give you a chance to explore Cal Poly's campus too. We have a rose garden, a Japanese garden. We have Arabian horses. It is a gorgeous campus to explore. For those of you who prefer to sit inside in the air conditioning, we also have our own brewery on campus. So plenty of places to go if you want some time off. But generally within the MOBTS conference, we also plan a lot of events for everybody to participate. So we'll have social events so that you can network, get to know people. Oftentimes we end up just continuing those conversations. And so I think one of the best parts about MOBTS is, right, someone presented early in the morning, you got to thinking about what they presented, and then we sit down at Jim's place and we have an in-depth conversation, about topics that people are just really passionate about. And the best part, I think, for MOBTS is getting a chance to really talk through some of these ideas with people who really are there to help their students succeed. And so finding out all these different ways to help your students succeed is just really exciting to me. No, let's wear shirts, Brandon, to campus, but you can probably get away with not wearing shoes if you need to. Right, Cal Poly's campus is gorgeous. We are situated in Southern California, so close to theme parks. There's all kinds of hiking to do in the area. Beaches are nearby if you want to make the drive. So lots to do in the area. Look forward to showing you some of Southern California, its culture, our food, and just really, we generally just have a great time at MOBTS. So we take our presentation seriously because we do have, right, this great body of members who take teaching seriously, but then we have a lot of fun outside of that at the conference as well. So I am very excited to welcome everybody onto campus and happy to answer questions around Cal Poly. And as Brandon said, we will be kicking off our 50th year. So this is a pretty exciting conference. As we go into our 50th year, we'll be doing some fun things to celebrate MOBTS. As Joe pointed out, he's been around for most of it, not quite all, but we will be looking at, right, what we've learned from our history and where we plan to go in the future.
Thanks, Chantel. One thing I want to hit upon, especially for the newcomers, our conference is somewhat unique in that about 70% of our conference attendees reside on campus in the dorms. And that's a huge cultural aspect of our conference. Now, we don't assume, we don't expect anybody to absolutely do that. It's no mandate by any means. But it's more than just, making MOBTS a really great value, which it is, a great value. And we have a significant number of people where even after their travel funds have dried up, they pay their own way because they see MOBTS as much of a getaway vacation with friends as they do, an academic, event. So it's a fantastic way to kind of get to know people. Evenings, as Chantal was making mention of, it does. The chatter of what you learned throughout the day, your experiences throughout the year, getting back into things post-COVID or amongst COVID, or depending on where we are, and progressing into what the future holds for us as teachers, as researchers, as an organization, what we're looking towards for our next 50 years. Those things don't just happen within the confines of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. within the conference, schedule itself. Those things stretch out until midnight, 2 a.m. in the dorm rooms and then in the lobbies and things like that. And it's truly a really amazing experience that leave a lot of individuals, reinvigorated as they head back into their fall semesters. So, one thing to consider, even if hotels are kind of your thing, just give some thought to the prospects of staying on campus. It is very cost effective. I assure you that we do not select universities, campuses that don't have very, very nice on-campus accommodations. That is one of the highest things that we grade out as we go around visiting various sites to determine which site we're going to host our campus on, our conference on. So does anybody have any questions about Cal Poly itself, about any of the kind of the norms of the conference in a kind of a physical sense?
I might add that adult beverages are involved in the evening.
Plentiful ones, yes. We have an evening event every night called Jim's Place. And it's typically an open bar that we do every single night. We actually do close the conference out on the final night of the conference with a talent show. And historically, you know, for the first 45 years of the organization's history, the talent show was, you know, there was some really good talent and there was some like, oh boy. But it has really taken off in terms of we have some amazingly talented individuals that really make it quite a show. So if nothing else, it's just something it's a fun night to sit in on and have a couple drinks and laugh and smile and all that. So there was a question from David, a good question, recommended airports to fly into. While I think I can answer that, Chantal, why don't you take that?
Sure. So if you're flying into Southern California, we actually have a lot of local airports. Ontario International Airport is in California. It's not in Canada, and it is closest. So if you fly into there, that's the closest you're going to get to campus. You can also fly into John Wayne, or Santa Ana SNA Airport. LAX is the big airport in LA. Just keep in mind the one downfall to LA, which everybody knows, is our traffic. And so I would highly recommend, if you are flying into LAX, not to do so at 5 p.m. Because then it might take a couple hours. But normally it's a short drive.
Yeah, I can tell you from when I went to Cal Poly to do the site visit before we selected the site, I flew into John Wayne, which is SNA, and I flew out of LAX. And, you know, which those are the two further ones compared to Ontario. And it was as easy as can be. Now, I came in strategically at the right time and I left at the correct time, but it was as easy an experience as I've had going into and out of a large city. So I don't think you can miss on any of those airports so long as you are aware of the timing of your flights.
Cal Poly is also located right next to about 3 freeways.
So how to get from LAX, which is if I can get there where I'll be arriving, from there to San Luis? What, like I'll be coming in from overseas, so and I don't know the area. Well, I guess what I'm thinking of is either put some stuff on the web so the people who are like me arrive.
Oh, we will. Yes. Yeah. As we get closer, we'll
how do we get there from here?
Absolutely. We will absolutely do that. That is actually part of what for our USA conference here, we do what we call a pre-arrival handbook, or the PAH. And you will see that acronym or that name as we get closer to the conference. That typically comes out about 2 to 3 months prior to the conference. And that goes through everything. That goes through everything to expect. That goes through timing, time zones. That goes through travel. That goes through security. If you need assistance or email, we try to cover everything that we can possibly think of to prepare you to get off your flight and feel comfortable knowing what's going on for the conference. So
thanks, Ben.
Yeah, most certainly be on the lookout for that. And we will absolutely have all that information in terms of, how to get from point A to point B from various areas. Now, Joseph,
the short answer is there's airport vans and Uber. That's the short answer.
I'm not good with short answers. Thank you.
Joseph is asking about what the dorm rooms are like and bathrooms and things like that.
So Chantel, correct me if I'm wrong in this, because we're still finalizing a little bit of this, and we just had a conference call about 2 weeks ago with Residence Life. These will be your kind of traditional suite style. Sometimes we opt for apartment style. Sometimes we opt for suite style. What I can tell you is that we never ever select dorm sites that have a worse ratio than a 2-to-1 ratio in terms of beds to bath. So we either go 1-to-1, 2-to-1, 3-to-2, but we never go 3 bedrooms to 1 bathroom. So in this scenario, I believe there are different room setups that we're talking about in order to house everybody. But a 2-to-1 ratio, a 4-to-2 ratio is the largest that we're dealing with. Is that correct, Chantal?
Yes, so the residential suites vary in the number of rooms that they have associated with a living room area. But at most there are 4 suites, if I'm remembering correctly, to 1 living room. And as Brandon said, at least 1 bathroom for every 2 rooms. And so you will be staying by yourself in a dorm room We're not doubling up. We're not going to make you sleep in bunk beds with other people. So we are doing a little nicer than what the dorms probably situation was when you were an undergrad. But you'll have your own room and probably share a bathroom with the person next to you, and then maybe share a living room area with either 3 or 2 other people is the most likely situation.
We, not just for this conference, but for any future conference that you may be considering, one of the largest red flags that we have, it's just a hurdle that we would never, try to even work around. We don't do kind of hallway communal bathrooms. That's a no. Right off the bat, that would be a no for a site, and we wouldn't even consider a site like that. So we will always go, apartment style or kind of en-suite style setups.
That's part of why living in the dorms is a really exciting experience. It's not like living in the dorms when I lived in a dorm. It's a much easier, much more pleasant opportunity to just be with some other people, but also have your own room and at worst a slightly shared bath. There have been years where we had 5 bedrooms and 5 baths in a suite, which I thought was pretty unusual. But
yep. And there is a hotel on campus. I believe it's about a 15-minute walk to where our session rooms would be. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there is a hotel on campus. I can usually get anywhere on campus within about 15 minutes, but kind of plan accordingly. There are also 2 hotels just down the street. So for people who still aren't convinced that being in a dorm can be fun, that's okay, right? As Brandon said, it's not a requirement. There are a lot of local hotel options and Airbnb options, and whatever you're looking for, you'll probably be able to find. We are, like I said, in Southern California, technically still in LA County, so lots of options.
Now, where we differ a little bit is, our conference, it certainly does not, like I said, it doesn't start at 9 a.m. and just end at 5 p.m. Parts of our conference will continue going on till 11 p.m. till midnight, depending on how, what we're doing with an evening event. We usually have an event on our Thursdays that incorporates something locally in the community or around the campus. Like I said, we have our evening gym place events every single night, open bar, hors d'oeuvres, things like that. Which customarily would run till 11 p.m. midnight, and then oftentimes people will continue to the after party in the dorms. So it is a really, really full and robust experience compared to a lot of other events. Anybody else? Okay, so one other thing, and I don't want to take up too much time on this. I do want to just briefly show you our submission site, and it doesn't take a whole lot to figure out how to go through this, and I'm not going to go through every single step with you, but I do want to give you a quick peek at what our site, what everything looks like. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so real simple here. We do stress that you read the submission guidelines. If you did not, if you were somebody who hasn't submitted since prior to 2018, our submission guidelines have changed drastically. Prior to 2018, we had a very short template. Pretty much anything would fly in terms of being considered. Well, that's not the case anymore. We have guidelines now that mimic what our expectations would be for submitting to management teaching review, because that to some degree is what we are hoping to assist you with. We're hoping that this provides becomes some sort of a catalyst in order for you to take what you're working on here, get the feedback, as Kathy was mentioning earlier, and then at least consider submitting into management teaching review. So do please review the submission guidelines before submitting, because not following those guidelines is a pretty quick way for us to not consider the submission. Normal thing, submission title, abstract. There is a word limit on the abstract of 150 words. So just please be aware of that and kind of do a word count before you get into this portion of the system. You can submit your file in docx, or PDF. PDF is preferred in this scenario, but we'll take any of the three. No one is going to have any impact over the others. In terms of topic areas, as Kathy mentioned before, our track is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, there's no obligation whatsoever to submit into that. But if you do submit into that, we're going to highlight that in the conference program. So individuals that want to be engaged with that track will clearly know that these were tailored towards this conference theme. General submission would literally be anything else under the sun that you feel is relevant to submit into our conference. Again, session formats, this jives directly with the submission guidelines, activity or exercise, roundtable discussion, symposium, panel, PDW, and case study. And this is sort of the, kind of the order of the breakdown that you would typically see in our conference program. Symposium and PDWs are kind of right on par with one another in how many receive, but a vast majority of our sessions are activity or exercise and roundtable discussion. Then questions in terms of traditional classroom, online, is it for undergrad, graduate? And these items here, none of these items that I'm talking about here, whether it be session format type, whether it be classroom style, they're not going to be a factor in whether your paper or your submission gets accepted or not. Those are really so individuals who are going through our conference program and our proceedings perhaps afterwards know what to search and what to look for if they want to kind of tap into your resource here, if they want to contact you afterwards to get in touch with you on how did you apply this to this particular group. So it's more for information than anything else. Your time requested. This is the question I made, the item I made mention of earlier in terms of proceedings and how you want those to be in the proceedings. Your authors, if you need to add more authors, simple as that, and so on. So a big thing here, it is a cultural norm of this organization and an expectation, I'll say, that at least one author from every paper that's submitted becomes a reviewer. You can tell by the submission guidelines, our papers that we receive, they're not hugely huge in size. We're not talking about 40 page research papers here or anything. We're talking about a few pages, 1,000 to 2,000 words. The most anybody receives on the first round is 3 papers to review, but normally we can get away with giving everybody just 2 papers. We normally get that many reviewers, but we do kindly ask that you and your co-authors register to review by checking off those boxes. And that's really all there is to it. Just be sure that when you do submit this and you are choosing a password here for your to access the paper later. And as it tells you here, you're going to be provided with a submission ID upon the conclusion, upon submitting this paper. That submission ID plus the password that you set here will be what you use to access your paper moving forward. But all of that information will be emailed to you upon submitting this paper. So you'll be good to go. So I'm going to close out this screen here. And again, it's every conference uses a slightly different submission system, so it's different software. There's nothing crazy about that one, but I did want to give you a little bit of a rundown there so you know what to expect prior to jumping into it. So at this stage, we're about 40 minutes into this. Does anybody have any questions under the sun whatsoever, whether it be the program, whether it be the site, whether it be the submission process or our organization or anything else?
Brandon, when should people hear about whether their proposal has been accepted?
Yeah, so let me bring up my conference timeline here. If you just give me one moment.
I know a lot of us have to fill out paperwork ahead of time to try and get dollars from our universities for those who can get dollars this year.
Yeah, so let me take you through the post closure of the call for papers. In the first week of February, we will assign reviews, and those will be random assignments of reviews. And again, 2 to 3 papers. Normally, we can get away with 2. Those reviews will be due by the 4th week of February. So we usually give about 3 weeks or so to perform these reviews. Paper decisions and conference registration will open the 1st week of March. So you'll get about a you'll get about a 13, 14 week head start, notice before the conference actually starts to be able to determine, am I going? What do I need to file in terms of travel requests and so on. So you would be looking for those paper decisions the first week of March. Anybody have anything? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Kathy, to Chantal. Kathy and Chantal, if you want to post your email addresses in the chat box there, just in case anybody has an immediate question that they didn't want to go into here on the Zoom chat.
Absolutely. I think we can probably stop the recording in case they have individual questions too.
Sure thing. I'm going to stop recording now, and I want to thank everybody.